The judge asked who signed away parental rights to a mistress. She stood, alone, no lawyer, no family, just a woman in a thrift store blazer, holding a folder that was about to destroy every single person on the other side of that courtroom. Her husband smiled. His new girlfriend smiled. His mother whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. She probably sold those kids for drug money. But here is what nobody in that room knew. Not the judge, not the lawyer in the $10,000 suit, not the mistress who forged documents to steal two 4-year-old twins, not even the husband who thought he married a nobody from nowhere. That woman standing alone with nothing. She was a billionaire's daughter, and the hospital where every piece of fake evidence was created. Her father owned it. Every camera, every access log, every record of every lie they ever told. She did not know it yet, but she was about to find out, and when she did, the people who tried to erase her were going to wish they had never learned her name. This is the story of Adriana Brooks. And if you have ever felt powerless, if you have ever been underestimated, if someone has ever looked at you and decided you were worth nothing, stay until the end, because what happens in that courtroom is going to change the way you think about silence and strength and what it really means to fight back. Lesson and value. This story carries one truth that every person needs to hear. Silence is not weakness. It is patience with a purpose. The people who try to break you are counting on you staying quiet, but documenting everything, asking for help, when you have done all you can alone and refusing to be erased. That is how ordinary people win extraordinary battles. This is not just entertainment. This is a reminder that your moment is coming, and the truth always comes out. If this story hit you somewhere real, if you felt something watching Adriana stand up in that courtroom, do me a favor. Drop a comment and tell me which moment gave you chills. Hit that like button so more people who need to hear this can find it. Share it with someone who is going through their own battle right now. And if you are not subscribed yet, join this family, because we tell stories here that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and I will see you in the next one. The judge asked who signed away parental rights to a mistress. She stood. The courtroom went quiet. Not the normal kind of quiet where people stop talking, the heavy kind. The kind that presses on your chest and makes you hold your breath because you can feel something coming that is going to change everything. Adriana Brooks stood alone at the respondent's table in Family Courtroom 3 of the Wake County Courthouse in Raleigh, North Carolina. She was 32 years old, and she looked every single day of it. Not because she was aging badly, because life had been pressing down on her with both hands for the past 8 months, and the weight of it showed in the shadows under her eyes and the way her shoulders curved forward like she was bracing for the next hit. Her clothes were clean but worn, a blazer from a thrift store that was slightly too big in the shoulders, a blouse she had ironed twice that morning because the first time she burned a small crease near the collar, black flats with scuffed toes, no jewelry except a thin gold chain around her neck, the kind you get from your grandmother and never take off, the kind that holds more weight than any diamond ever could. She clutched a battered manila folder against her chest. Inside that folder was everything. 8 months of fighting compressed into paper and ink and desperation. Across the aisle, her husband, Kwame Brooks, sat with his back straight and his jaw set like a man who had already won. He wore a charcoal suit that fit perfectly. New haircut, fresh shave, he looked like the kind of man who appeared on the cover of a business magazine. The kind of man people trusted on sight. Next to him sat Simone Carter. Simone had that look. You know the one, designer bag positioned just so on the table, manicure fresh, Hair laid perfect, makeup that looked natural, but cost $200 worth of products to achieve. She touched Quam's bowed arm like she owned him, like she had already won him, and this courtroom appearance was just a formality, a rubber stamp on a future she had already designed. Behind them sat Quam's mother Lorraine and his sister Tracy. Lorraine was 58 with a church hat and a permanent expression of disapproval. Tracy was 30 and had the same expression, but with less practice, hiding the cruelty behind it. They both wore smirks that said they had been waiting for this day for a long time. The bailiff called the case. Brooks versus Brooks. Custody of minor children. Caleb and Chloe Brooks. Age 4. Twins. Quayam's lawyer stood up. His name was Gregory Whitfield, and he was the kind of attorney who wore suits that cost more than most people's rent. He moved with the confidence of a man who did not lose cases because he did not take cases he could lose. "Your Honor," he said, laying a leather folder on the judge's bench. "We are presenting voluntary parental surrender documents signed by Mrs. Adriana Brooks, approximately 6 months ago. These documents indicate that Mrs. Brooks willingly transferred all parental rights of the minor children to Miss Simone Carter, who has been serving as primary caregiver for the past several months." Lorraine leaned forward and whispered, but she whispered the way some people whisper, loud enough for half the courtroom to hear. "She probably sold those kids for drug money, always knew she was trash." Tracy covered her mouth like she was hiding a laugh, but she was not hiding anything. She was never fit to be a mother. Look at her, cannot even afford a decent outfit for court. Simone squeezed Kwame's hand and put on a face of deep concern. The loving stepmother, the woman who stepped in when the biological mother failed. The performance was polished, almost believable. The judge was an older woman named Patricia Coleman, with silver-streaked hair, pulled back tight, and reading glasses perched on her nose. She had been on the family court bench for 23 years. She had seen every kind of lie, dressed up in every kind of suit. She looked over her glasses at the documents, then at Adriana. "Mrs. Brooks, do you recognize this signature as yours?" Adriana took the papers with steady hands. She looked at them for a long moment. Her lips moved slightly, like she was reading every single word, memorizing it, filing it away. Then she looked up at the judge. Her voice was soft but clear. "No, Your Honor, that is not my signature, and I can prove it." Quayam shot to his feet. "Stop lying. You abandoned our kids for months. You could not handle being a mother, so you ran." Lorraine stood up too. "She does not deserve those babies. Never did." Simone started crying. Real tears. "Your Honor, I have been raising those children like my own. I love them. I have been there for every doctor appointment, every bedtime story, everything Adriana walked away from." Judge Coleman banged her gavel once, hard. "Order. Everyone sit down, now." She turned back to Adriana. "Mrs. Brooks, this is a serious allegation. Do you have any proof that this signature was forged?" Adriana opened her folder slowly. Inside was not just one piece of evidence. It was a stack, organized, tabbed, labeled in her own handwriting. 8 months of fighting, 8 months of documentation, 8 months of a woman who was supposed to be broken, proving that she was anything but. "Yes, Your Honor," she said, "I do. But to present this evidence properly, I need to explain how I obtained it. And to do that, I need to take you back 8 months, to the day my husband decided to erase me from my children's lives." The judge studied her for a long moment. "Proceed, Mrs. Brooks." Adriana took a breath, and she began. 8 months ago, Adriana's life was not glamorous. It was not easy. But it was good. It was hers. She worked the overnight shift at the Raleigh Community Health Clinic. 11 at night to 7 in the morning. The shift nobody wanted because it paid an extra $3 an hour and $3 an hour was the difference between keeping the lights on and falling behind. She was a registered nurse, had been for 6 years. She was good at it. The kind of nurse who remembered patients' names and asked about their kids and checked on them one extra time before her shift ended, even when she was so tired her vision blurred. Every morning, she came home at 7:15. Kwame would already be gone for work, or sometimes he was still asleep. The twins would be in their beds in the room they shared. Caleb on the left, Chloe on the right, same positions every night, like they had an agreement about it. She would wake them gently, make breakfast, scrambled eggs for Caleb because he liked them soft, toast with strawberry jam for Chloe because she liked things sweet. She would drive them to preschool and then come home and try to sleep for 2 or 3 hours before the whole cycle started again. It was exhausting. But when she looked at those two faces across the breakfast table, those big brown eyes that looked just like hers, those little hands reaching for their juice cups, that was everything. That was the whole world in a kitchen that needed new tile. She and Kwame had been married for 5 years. Met at a hospital fundraiser when she was 26. He was in medical device sales, charming, confident, had that smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room when he aimed it at you. He asked for her number before the event ended, called her the next day, took her to dinner that weekend. "You are different," he told her, over pasta, at a restaurant she could not afford. "Most women I meet, they want something from me. But you just want to be good." She fell for him hard and fast because when you have been alone most of your life and someone finally sees you, really sees you, you hold on to that with both hands. They married after 6 months, small ceremony. His mother, Lorraine, came and pulled Adriana aside before the vows. "You better be good to my son. Do not you trap him with no babies." Adriana smiled and nodded, because she was too happy to let the words land. She filed them away in the back of her mind the way you do with things you do not want to examine too closely. Within a year, she was pregnant with twins. Kwame seemed excited, set up the nursery, came to doctor appointments, rubbed her swollen feet at night. But Lorraine and Tracy got colder, started making comments just loud enough to hear. She trapped him. Those babies probably are not even his. Caleb and Chloe were born on a Tuesday morning in October, 6 minutes apart, screaming their way into the world like they had something urgent to say. When the nurse laid them in her arms, Adriana cried so hard she could not breathe. She finally had family again, because Adriana Brooks had not always had family. She had not always had anyone. Her mother Angela died bringing her into the world. Her father was a name she never knew. She was raised by her grandmother Geneva in a small house in rural North Carolina where the paint was peeling and the porch steps creaked, but inside it smelled like cornbread and collard greens and love so thick you could lean against it. Miss Geneva. That is what everybody in town called her. Out of respect, she cleaned houses for a living, worked on her hands and knees, scrubbing other people's floors, never complained, just hummed old spirituals while she worked and taught Adriana by example that strength does not announce itself. Real power moves in silence. At night, she would braid Adriana's hair on the porch while lightning bugs blinked in the yard. "Baby girl," she would say, her old hands gentle but sure. "People are going to test you in this life, going to try to make you small. But you got something in you that cannot be made small. You hear me? Yes, ma'am. Do not matter what they take from you. You hold your head up. You stay kind. And when the time comes, you will know who you really are." Geneva got sick when Adriana was 16. Cancer. Moving fast. On a Tuesday evening in May, she called Adriana to her bedside. She was small against the pillows, but her eyes were still sharp. She reached under her pillow and pulled out a sealed envelope, old, yellowed at the edges. Keep this safe, baby girl. Do not open it yet. You will know when the time comes. It is the truth about who you are, about your father. Is he alive? Geneva smiled through tears. He loves you more than you know. He had to leave to protect you. That is all I can say. 3 days later, Geneva passed in her sleep, holding Adriana's hand. At 16, Adriana was alone. Foster care. 3 homes in 2 years. She carried that envelope in her backpack, and then in her purse, and then in a wooden box in her closet. 16 years, and she never opened it. Geneva said she would know when. She trusted that. She put herself through community college, nursing degree, night shifts, double shifts. She built a life with her bare hands. And then Kwame came along, and she thought she was done building. Thought she could rest. Thought she had finally found what she had lost when Geneva died. She was wrong. Now back to 8 months ago, the night everything started to crack. It was 2 a.m, and Adriana was sitting in the break room at the clinic with her best friend, Donna Price. Dana was a fellow night shift nurse. 35, loud, funny, the kind of friend who said what everybody was thinking, but nobody would say out loud. Dana was eating vending machine chips and looking at Adriana with an expression that said she had been holding something in for weeks. Girl. When is the last time Kwame actually came home before midnight? Adriana shrugged. He has got a big account, medical conference season. You know how it is. Dana crunched a chip slowly. Mm-hmm. Conference season. That is what my first husband called it too. Right up until I found conference season's thong in his glove compartment. Adriana laughed despite herself. It is not like that. It is always like that. I am just saying. Trust but verify. That is not jealousy. That is self-preservation. The signs are always there, honey. We just decide not to read them because the truth costs more than the lie. Adriana brushed it off, finished her shift, drove home. Kwame was asleep. But Dana's words sat in her chest like a stone, and at 3 a.m, while Kwame snored beside her, Adriana did something she had never done in 5 years of marriage. She picked up his phone. She found the texts under the contact name SC. They were not sexual. They were worse. They were strategic. After the filing, we will have full control. The kids will adjust. Children are resilient. She will not fight. She cannot afford to. Adriana's hands shook. She screenshotted everything. 12 messages. Put his phone back on the nightstand. Went to the bathroom and sat on the cold tile floor and stared at the wall for 20 minutes. She did not cry. She did not confront him. She was thinking. Over the next 2 weeks, Adriana became a ghost in her own marriage. She smiled when Kwame talked to her, cooked dinner, bathed the twins, went to work. But underneath the surface, she was digging. She started with Simone Carter, the name from Kwame's phone, his so-called business partner, the woman he had introduced at a company barbecue 3 months earlier as someone he was working with on a big account. Adriana remembered that barbecue, remembered how Simone laughed at everything Kwame said, remembered how she bent down to talk to the twins and Chloe immediately reached for her hand, remembered how Lorraine had whispered loud enough for the whole backyard to hear. Now that is the kind of woman Kwame should have married. Classy, educated, not some charity case from the country. Adriana had swallowed that, filed it away, kept smiling. But now, she was done swallowing. She searched Simone Carter online, LinkedIn profile, MBA from a mid-tier business school, professional history, and there it was. Prior to her current position, Simone had worked at Mercy General Hospital. In the medical records department, Mercy General, the hospital where Caleb and Chloe were born. Adriana stared at that detail for a long time. The next day, she called Mercy General and requested copies of her medical records, her own records. She had every legal right to them under federal privacy law. The woman on the phone was pleasant. Of course, ma'am. We will process your request. Allow 5 to 7 business days. 7 business days passed. Nothing. She called again. I am sorry, ma'am. There seems to be a system issue. We are working on it. She went in person, sat in the records office for 2 hours. A clerk told her the file was being reviewed. Come back next week. She went back. Come back next week. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her gut the way you can feel a storm coming before the sky changes color. Someone did not want her to see those records. Meanwhile, Kwame was getting bolder. The mask was coming off in pieces. One evening, he came home late and found Adriana reading to the twins on the couch. Caleb was half asleep against her arm. Chloe was fighting to keep her eyes open. You know, Kwame said, leaning against the doorframe, Simone thinks kids need stability, a real home environment, not a mother who works all night and sleeps all day. Adriana did not look up. She kept reading, kept her voice steady for her children. The twins asked Simone to read them a story last weekend. They are getting attached. She is really good with them. Adriana turned the page, finished the story, carried each twin to bed, kissed their foreheads, closed their door. Then she turned to Kwame in the hallway. When did the twins see Simone last weekend? They were here with me all weekend. Kwame smiled, the kind of smile that is not a smile. It is a warning. Maybe you should pay more attention to where your kids are. He walked into the bedroom and closed the door. Adriana stood in the hallway. She pressed her back against the wall and breathed, counted to 10. Then she pulled out her phone and texted Dana. Something is happening. I need your help. Dana replied in 4 fewer seconds. Name the time and place. I will bring wine and a baseball bat. Despite everything, Adriana almost smiled. The insults kept coming. Kwame stopped being subtle about it. You let yourself go. Why can you not dress like other wives? Simone gets it. She understands ambition. Lorraine started showing up unannounced. Checking on the grandkids, she said, but really she was cataloging. The stack of dishes in the sink, the laundry basket in the hallway, the fact that Adriana was sleeping when she knocked at 1 in the afternoon because Adriana had worked from 11 the night before until 7 that morning. Tracy came too, and she brought her phone. She took photos when she thought Adriana was done looking. The messy kitchen counter, the toys scattered on the living room floor. Normal life in a house with 4-year-old twins. Adriana caught her once. Did you just photograph my kitchen? Tracy put her phone away with fake innocence. I was just texting. Relax. They were building a case. All of them. And Adriana could see the architecture of it forming around her like walls going up brick by brick. Then one evening, she came home from a shift to find the apartment empty. The twins' beds were made, neat, too neat. The way you make a bed when you are not coming back. Their shoes were gone. Their little backpacks with the cartoon characters. Gone. A note on the kitchen table. Kwame's handwriting. I am taking the kids to my mother's for the week. They need a stable environment. Do not make this harder than it has to be. Adriana called his phone. No answer. Texted. Nothing. Called Lorraine. Voicemail. Called Tracy. Voicemail. She drove to Lorraine's house at 7 in the morning, still in her scrubs. Mascara smeared, hands shaking on the steering wheel. Lorraine opened the door with a smile so sharp it could cut glass. Oh, honey, the kids are fine. They are having pancakes with their daddy and Simone. You look tired. Maybe you should go home and rest. Adriana pushed past her. Inside the kitchen. Kwame at the table. Simone across from him, the twins between them, syrup on their faces, laughing, happy. The scene looked like a family portrait, but the wrong family. "Mommy!" Chloe shouted. Miss Simone made Mickey Mouse pancakes. The knife went in clean, right between the ribs. Kwame stood up. His face was stone. "You need to leave. You are scaring the kids." "I am scaring them. You took them from their home. Lorraine from behind. See? This is what I have been telling you. Unstable." Kwame pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "Divorce papers? Sign these. Take the settlement. Walk away clean. Simone is going to be their real mom." Adriana looked at the papers, then at her children, who had gone quiet because children always know when the air in a room changes. Then at Simone, who was cutting Caleb's pancakes with a calm, steady hand, like she had been doing it forever. Adriana took the papers. She did not sign them. She looked Kwame dead in the eye. "You will have to drag me through every court in this state, but you will not erase me." She walked out, got in her car, closed the door, and she broke. Full, ugly, crying. The kind that hurts your ribs and makes your throat raw. 5 minutes of it. Everything she had been holding for weeks, pouring out in that front seat. Then she stopped, wiped her face with the back of her hand, pulled out her phone, called Dana. "I need help, and I need a lawyer." Dana did not miss a beat. "My cousin Marcus is a paralegal. He is not expensive because he is not good at much else. But he knows custody law. I will call him right now." "Thank you." "And Adriana." Dana's voice softened. "You are not alone. You hear me. You have got me. I hear you." That night, Adriana sat at her kitchen table. The apartment was silent in the worst way. No little voices, no cartoon theme songs, no tiny feet on the floor. She opened her laptop, and she started a file. She labeled it Evidence. Then she typed a single line at the top. "Nobody is going to save me. I am going to save myself." Dana's cousin Marcus turned out to be exactly what Dana described. Not the best paralegal in the world, but honest, and he knew family court procedure like the back of his hand. He met Adriana at a coffee shop the next morning. He was a big man, with kind eyes and a yellow legal pad that he wrote on in tiny, precise handwriting. "Listen," he said, after she told him everything. "Family court is not about who is right. It is about who has documentation. Judges do not want to hear your feelings. They want paper, time-stamped, dated, organized. Everything you can prove, put it on paper. Everything you cannot prove yet, find a way." Adriana nodded. "Here is what we need," he continued. "Your work schedule, proving you are employed and stable. The screenshots from Kwame's phone. The twins' pediatrician records showing you brought them to every appointment. Character references from your coworkers and the preschool teacher. Bank statements showing you contribute to the household. And file an emergency custody motion today, right now, before they have time to build more ammunition." They filed that afternoon. The motion requested immediate return of the children based on the fact that Kwame had removed them from the family home without Adriana's consent. Meanwhile, Adriana kept digging into Simone Carter. She had discovered that Simone worked at Mercy General and medical records, but that was just the most recent hospital. On LinkedIn, Simone's work history showed 4 different hospitals in 3 states over 8 years: Georgia, Texas, now North Carolina. She never stayed more than 2 years at any of them. "Nobody moves that much," Adriana told Dana during their shift that night. "Not unless they are running from something. Or running a pattern. Or both," Dana said. Through the legal aid website, the paralegal recommended Adriana found a name: Detective Ray Santos. Semi-retired fraud investigator. He did pro bono consulting for people who could not afford private investigators. She called him. Santos was skeptical. Ma'am, custody disputes are not fraud cases. They are when someone forges your signature on legal documents. You have proof of that, not yet, but I know where to look. They met at Adriana's apartment. Santos was 45. Former law enforcement, had the look of a man who had seen too much and decided to keep going anyway. He stood in her living room and listened while she walked him through everything. The texts, the hospital records stonewall, Simone's job history, the pattern. Santos rubbed his jaw. In fraud cases, the pattern is the proof. 1 incident is a mistake. 2 is a coincidence. 3 is a crime. If this woman has done this before, at other hospitals, there will be a trail. People who commit fraud get comfortable. They reuse the same methods. Find me the pattern, and I will find you the crime. He looked at her evidence wall. She had started taping things to the living room wall. Sticky notes, printed articles, timelines drawn in marker on printer paper, string connecting related documents. You know, this looks like a serial killer's apartment, right? Adriana managed half a smile. Serial killers do not have Paw Patrol playing in the background. From the next room, Caleb's voice drifted in. He was watching TV at Lorraine's house, but in Adriana's mind, she could still hear him. Santos pointed at the wall. This is good, though. This is how investigators think. You have good instincts. I have a grandmother who taught me to pay attention. Over the next 4 weeks, Adriana built her case during every free hour. After the twins went to sleep during her lunch breaks at the clinic on her phone in the parking lot between errands, she called hospitals in Georgia and Texas where Simone had worked. Most would not talk to her. But Santos had connections. He found something in Atlanta. A woman named Keisha Williams, a nurse. She had gone through a divorce 3 years earlier. During the proceedings, documents surfaced showing she had voluntarily signed over custody of her 2 children. Keisha said she never signed anything. She lost custody for 2 years before an appeals court overturned the ruling. The hospital where the documents originated, the same hospital where Simone Carter had worked in medical records. Santos called Adriana at 11 at night. She was about to start her shift. I found your pattern, he said. Her name is Keisha Williams. She is willing to talk. Adriana closed her eyes. Breathed. She has done this before, Adriana whispered. This is what she does. Yes, but we still cannot prove she forged your specific documents. We need the originals. We need access logs. We need proof she touched your file. Then we get it. The emergency custody motion got a hearing date, 2 weeks out. The paralegal Marcus helped Adriana prepare. She organized every piece of evidence, work schedule, phone screenshots, pediatrician records, character references. The preschool teacher wrote a letter that made Adriana cry. Adriana Brooks is the most devoted mother I have ever had in my classroom. Her children are loved and cared for, and they talk about their mommy every single day. At the preliminary hearing, the judge reviewed the emergency motion. Kwame's lawyer, Gregory Whitfield, argued that the children were safe and well cared for and that disrupting their current arrangement would cause harm. But he did not have documentation. He had assumptions. Adriana had paper. The judge ordered the children returned to Adriana pending the full custody hearing. That evening, Adriana picked up Caleb and Chloe from Lorraine's house. Lorraine did not say a word, just opened the door and stepped aside. The twins ran to their mother. She knelt down and held them both so tight they squirmed. That night, she read them 3 bedtime stories. Then she lay down on the floor between their beds and listened to them breathe. For 1 week, things were okay. For 1 week, she almost believed it would be all right. The phone rang on a Tuesday morning. Adriana had just dropped the twins at preschool. She was in the parking lot, about to drive home for 3 hours of sleep. Her supervisor's voice was careful. The way people sound when they are delivering bad news, they did not choose. Adriana, we received an anonymous complaint. Someone reported that you have been stealing prescription medications from the clinic. Adriana's hands tightened on the steering wheel. That is not true. I believe you, but we have to follow protocol. You are suspended pending investigation, without pay. I am sorry. The line went dead. Adriana sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes. She did not move. She did not cry. She was calculating. No income meant no rent. No rent meant the apartment was at risk. And without employment, she was vulnerable in custody court. Someone knew exactly which dominoes to push. She called Santos. How would someone file an anonymous complaint about a nurse? Anyone can do it. Phone call to the state board. Anonymous tip line. Why? Because someone just filed one against me. And I need you to understand the timing. I just won a custody hearing 5 days ago. 5 days, and now I am accused of stealing drugs. Santos was quiet for a moment. Who has access to the complaint system? Who would know exactly how to do this? Adriana already knew the answer. Someone who worked in hospital administration, someone who understood medical reporting systems inside and out. Simone, 6 days later. A knock at her door at 8 in the morning. Her landlord, a tired-looking man in a polo shirt who could not make eye contact. Adriana, I am sorry. The management company is requiring me to deliver this. Eviction notice. 30 days to vacate. She was behind on rent because of the suspension. 1 missed payment. In 5 years of never missing a single payment, 1 missed payment, and they were already filing. She looked at the eviction notice. The property management company name, Trent Property Group. She had never heard of them. She filed the name away. Something about it nagged at her. 3 days after the eviction notice, another knock. 9 in the morning, a woman in a gray pantsuit with a county ID badge, CPS, Child Protective Services. Mrs. Brooks, we received a report regarding the welfare of your minor children. I need to conduct a home visit. Adriana stood in the doorway. 3 hits in 10 days, job, home, now this. The architecture of it was elegant in its cruelty, each piece supporting the next. Each one designed to make her look like exactly what Kwame's lawyer would argue she was, unstable, unfit, unable. Come in, Adriana said, because what else could she say? The CPS worker was a woman named Janet. She was thorough but not unkind. She checked the apartment. The fridge was stocked. The twins' room was clean. Caleb and Chloe were playing on the floor, healthy, happy, obviously loved. Janet made notes, spoke to the twins briefly, looked in cabinets and closets. The whole process took 45 minutes that felt like 45 years. The home appears to be in order, Janet said at the door. I will note that in my report. But the file will remain open until the investigation is resolved. After she left, Adriana stood in the kitchen. The twins were watching cartoons in the next room. Their laughter drifted through the doorway. $340 in her checking account. No job. Eviction in 24 days. A CPS file with her name on it, and a custody hearing in 5 weeks. She had been here before, not these exact circumstances, but this feeling, this standing at the edge of everything with nothing to hold on to. She was 16 again. Geneva was gone. The foster homes, the empty rooms, the feeling of being erased. That night after the twins fell asleep, she sat on the bathroom floor. The tile was cold. The apartment was silent. She pulled her knees to her chest and pressed her forehead against them, and she let herself feel it. All of it. The fear, the rage, the exhaustion. Here's the thing about being on the bathroom floor at 3 in the morning. Most people have been there, in some version or another. Maybe not this exact floor, maybe not this exact fight. But that place where it is dark and you are tired and you have done everything you can think of and it is still not enough. That is a universal address. Everybody has visited. The question is never whether you end up on that floor. Everybody does. The question is what you do when you get up. Adriana got up. She went to her closet, pulled down the wooden box, Geneva's box. The envelope was still inside, 16 years old, yellowed at the edges, her grandmother's handwriting on the front. She picked it up, held it, put it back, picked it up again. Not yet. Not tonight. Instead, she opened her laptop, sat on the floor next to her evidence wall, and she typed 3 words into a search engine: Trent Property Group, the property management company that filed her eviction. She dug corporate records, state business filings, subsidiary listings. Trent Property Group was a subsidiary of Callaway Holdings, which had a consulting contract with a medical staffing company called Apex Health Partners. Apex Health Partners was Simone Carter's current employer. Adriana sat back against the wall. The eviction was not random. It was not bad luck. It was connected. The drug complaint, the eviction, the CPS report, they were not 3 separate attacks. They were one coordinated campaign, and Simone Carter's fingerprints were all over it. Adriana grabbed her phone, texted Santos, "I found the connection. Trent Property Group connects to Simone through Apex Health Partners. She coordinated everything." Santos replied at 3:47 in the morning, "I will verify. Do not tell anyone else yet. We build this quietly. When we walk into that courtroom, I want them to have no idea what is coming." Adriana looked at the evidence wall, looked at the wooden box, looked at the ceiling. "Grandma," she said to the empty room, "I am not done yet." Santos verified the connection within a week. Trent Property Group and Apex Health Partners shared a board member. The link to Simone was not direct enough for criminal charges yet, but it was more than circumstantial. Meanwhile, Adriana's drug investigation was moving forward. The clinic reviewed every controlled substance log for the past 12 months. Every pill counted, every signature verified. Adriana's records were spotless. 3 weeks after the suspension, her supervisor called. "You are cleared. There is 0 evidence of any theft. The complaint has been flagged as potentially malicious. Come back whenever you are ready." Adriana hung up and cried, not from sadness, from relief so intense it felt like pain. She called the CPS office. Janet, the social worker, reviewed the case. The home visit found nothing of concern. The drug allegation was unfounded. The file was being closed. 2 down, 1 to go. The eviction was still pending, but with her job back, she could catch up on rent. She called the landlord. He agreed to accept a late payment, and Santos had tracked down Keisha Williams in Atlanta. The woman was willing to testify. She had been waiting 3 years for someone to connect the dots. When Santos told her there was another victim, she cried on the phone. "I thought I was the only one," she said. "I thought I was crazy. That is what they make you believe, that you are the crazy one." For the first time in weeks, Adriana felt something she had been afraid to feel. Hope. Dana noticed it during their shift. "Look at you," almost smiling. "What happened?" "We found another victim. Someone Simone did this to before. She is willing to testify." Dana grabbed her shoulders. "Girl, you're about to walk into that courtroom and end them." Adriana shook her head. "Something does not feel right. Every time I get ahead, something knocks me back. Can you just enjoy winning for 5 minutes. Last time I enjoyed winning, I lost my kids for a week. She was right to be cautious. 2 days before the custody hearing, Adriana received a certified letter at her apartment from Kwame's lawyer, Gregory Whitfield. Inside was a motion filing, new documents. Not just the custody surrender papers this time. This time they had a full psychiatric evaluation, signed by a Dr. Helen Marsh, psychiatrist, at Mercy General Hospital. The evaluation stated that Adriana Brooks suffered from, quote, delusional paranoia and obsessive behavioral patterns that render her unfit for unsupervised parenting. Adriana had never met Dr. Helen Marsh, had never had a psychiatric evaluation. The document was fabricated from the first word to the last. But attached to the fabricated evaluation were real documents. Adriana's actual medical records from her pregnancy, her OBGYN notes from 4 years ago, notes that included a disclosure Adriana had made in confidence during a postpartum checkup. She had told her doctor that she was feeling anxious, that she was not sleeping well, that she worried about being a good mother. Normal things. Things millions of new mothers feel and say to their doctors in confidence, trusting that those words will stay in that room. They did not stay in that room. Someone pulled those records. Someone read those private words, and someone twisted them into a weapon. She called Santos. Her voice was shaking. They faked a psychiatric evaluation, and they pulled my real medical records and used my own words against me. I told my doctor I felt anxious after the birth. Every new mother feels anxious. And now, they are using it to say I am mentally unstable. Santos was already moving. We need to find Dr. Marsh. If she did not actually evaluate you, that is medical fraud. I will pull her schedule and travel records. Adriana hung up and sat in her car in the parking lot. It was raining. Heavy gray sheets of water blurring the windshield. Her phone rang, the preschool. Mrs. Brooks, I wanted to let you know that Chloe drew a picture in class today. She seemed upset afterward. I thought you should see it. Adriana picked up the drawing after work. It was a family portrait done in crayon. 4 figures. Mommy with brown hair and a smile. Caleb in a red shirt. Chloe in a purple dress. And a 4th figure, labeled in a teacher's handwriting because Chloe could not spell it herself. Other mommy. Adriana sat in the preschool parking lot holding that drawing. The rain hammered the roof of her car. She looked at the crayon figure, labeled Other Mommy, and something inside her cracked open. She screamed, full and raw and guttural. The kind of scream that comes from a place beneath words. She screamed until her throat hurt, and the windows fogged, and there was nothing left. Then she stopped, wiped her face, and drove home. She went straight to the closet, took down the wooden box, pulled out the envelope. 16 years. Geneva's voice. You will know when the time comes. The time had come. The envelope was old. The paper inside was expensive, heavy stock, the kind that comes out from a desk that costs more than most people's cars. A letter, a birth certificate, a hospital bracelet so tiny it could have been a doll's. The letter was handwritten, every word careful, like each one had been chosen and reconsidered and chosen again. My dearest daughter Adriana, if you are reading this, then Geneva has passed, and you are on your own. I am sorry. I am sorry I could not be there. I am sorry I had to leave you when you were just a baby. Your mother Angela and I loved each other, beyond anything I can put into words. But my world was dangerous. When you were 3 months old, someone tried to take you. A kidnapping attempt. It failed but barely. I knew then that my enemies would use you and your mother to destroy me. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I sent you to Geneva, your mother's mother, the strongest woman I have ever known besides your mother herself. Angela was supposed to come too. We had a plan. But 2 months after I sent you away, Angela died in a car accident. An accident I have never believed was an accident. I have spent 32 years carrying that suspicion and that guilt. I sent money. I paid for the house. I covered the bills. Geneva sent most of it back. She said you needed to learn to stand on your own. She was right. She was always right about the things that matter. I have watched you from a distance your whole life. I have people who check on you, who make sure you are safe. I know about your husband. I know about your children. I know about the woman who is trying to destroy you. But I waited. Because Geneva would have wanted you to fight first, to know that you could. If you need me now, I am here. I have always been here. Call this number. It is a private line. Only you have it. I never stopped loving you. I never will. Your father, Marcus Whitmore. Adriana stared at the name. It was familiar the way a word is familiar, when you have heard it but never paid attention. She picked up her phone, typed the name. The screen filled. Forbes profiles, business magazines, hospital ribbon cuttings, a man in tailored suits, with silver hair and eyes that looked like hers. Marcus Whitmore, founder and CEO of Whitmore Healthcare Systems. 12 hospitals across the Southeast, medical research facilities, pharmaceutical investments, real estate holdings, net worth $4.2 billion. Her phone slipped from her hands onto the bed. She picked up the birth certificate. Father Marcus James Whitmore. Mother Angela Rose. Thompson, child Adriana Geneva. Thompson Whitmore. All her life, she thought she was nobody, thought she was alone, thought she was a girl from a small town with nothing but a dead grandmother's gold chain and an envelope she was afraid to open. She was the daughter of one of the wealthiest men in America, and he owned the hospital where her children were born, the hospital where Simone Carter had worked, the hospital where every piece of fraudulent evidence against her had been created. She sat on the floor for a long time. The twins were asleep. The apartment was quiet. Rain had stopped. Through the window, she could see stars. Geneva's voice again. Asking for help is not weakness, baby girl. It is wisdom. Knowing when you have done everything you can alone. That is strength, too. She picked up her phone, dialed the number from the letter. It rang once. Someone picked up immediately. A man's voice, deep, careful, like he had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times and was still not ready. Adriana, how do you know my voice? Because you sound exactly like your mother. They met at a diner off Highway 54. Not a penthouse, not a boardroom. A diner with vinyl booths and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since morning. Marcus Whitmore's choice. He said he wanted to meet somewhere real. He drove himself. No security team, no entourage. He wore a button-down shirt and khakis like any other man his age, meeting family for breakfast. He was nervous. Adriana could see it in his hands, the way he kept straightening the salt shaker, adjusting his coffee cup. Looking at the door, every time it opened. When she walked in, he stood up. For a moment, they just looked at each other across the diner. Two strangers who shared blood and 32 years of silence. Adriana sat down across from him. She did not hug him. She was not ready for that. You watched me grow up in poverty, she said, no warmth in her voice, not yet. You watched me bounce through 3 foster homes. You watched me work double shifts to put myself through nursing school. And you did nothing. Marcus met her eyes. I sent money. Geneva. Geneva scrubbed floors on her hands and knees. I watched her do it. If you sent money, it was not enough. It was. She sent it back. Every check, after the house was paid off, she returned. She said you needed to learn to stand on your own. I argued with her about it for years, but she was immovable. You know how she was. Adriana did know. That was exactly something Geneva would do. Stubborn in the specific way of women who believe that struggle builds character because it built theirs. Marcus slid a folder across the table. His hands were steady, but his voice was not. I failed you as a father. I know that. 32 years. I cannot get them back. I cannot undo the foster homes, or the loneliness, or any of it. But I can help you now, if you will let me. Adriana opened the folder. Inside were print outs. Security camera paper logs from Mercy General Hospital. Time-stamped access records from the medical records system. Employment records. How long have you had this? 3 weeks. Adriana looked up. Her eyes were hard. 3 weeks. While I was losing my job. While I was getting evicted. While CPS was in my kitchen, looking in my cabinets. You had this for 3 weeks, and you waited. Marcus held her gaze. Because you needed to fight this yourself first. You needed to know that you could. And you did. You found the pattern. You found the detective. You found the connection between Trent Property Group and Apex Health Partners. You built the case, Adriana, all of it. I just have the last piece. And what is that? I own Mercy General Hospital. Every security camera in that building, every access log, every record of who logged into what system and when. Simone Carter accessed your medical files 47 times in 6 months. She accessed Keisha Williams' files over 60 times. Before that, in Atlanta, Adriana's jaw tightened. And Dr. Helen Marsh, she is a real psychiatrist. She does work at Mercy General, but she was on vacation in Portugal the entire week she supposedly evaluated you. I have her passport stamps, her hotel receipts, her airline tickets. You own the hospital where my children were born. I own 12 hospitals. Mercy General is the one that matters. Silence. The diner hummed around them. A waitress refilled coffee. Somewhere, a plate clattered. How do you want to handle this? Marcus asked. I can have my legal team take over. Best attorneys in the state. We can end this in 48 hours. Adriana shook her head. No. No. I want to be the one standing in that courtroom. I want Kwame to see my face when it falls apart. Not yours. You come in when I call you, not before. Marcus studied his daughter. Something shifted in his face. Not surprise, exactly. Recognition. Like he was seeing someone he knew and someone he had just met. You really are Geneva's girl. Over the next 2 weeks, they built the final case. Adriana, Santos, Marcus's legal team working behind the scenes. They constructed it like an architect builds a building. Every beam load bearing, every walsall reinforced. The forged custody documents. Signature analysis from 3 independent experts, plus proof. Adriana was on shift at the clinic when the papers were supposedly signed. The fabricated psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Marsh's travel records proving she was in another country. The pattern. Keisha Williams' testimony. The Dallas case, records Santos uncovered. 3 hospitals, 3 victims, 1 perpetrator. The medical records breach. 47 unauthorized access logs. The coordinated attack, the drug complaint, the eviction, the CPS report, all traceable through corporate records to Simone Carter's network. Santos looked at the final evidence package, spread across Adriana's kitchen table. The twins were asleep. It was midnight. This is not just a custody case anymore, he said. This is racketeering. Marcus nodded from the corner where he sat drinking coffee from a mug that said, World's Best Nurse. Chloe had given it to Adriana for Mother's Day. Adriana looked at them both. When we walk in there, I present my evidence first. Everything I gathered on my own. The screenshots, the work records, the signature analysis I paid $200 for, my case. Then when the judge needs verification, that is when you come in. She looked at Marcus. You are not the story. The story is a woman who fought for her children with everything she had. You are the evidence that proves she was right. Marcus raised his coffee mug. Geneva would have said it exactly that way. The courtroom was full. Word had spread the way it does in county courthouses, through clerks and bailiffs and lawyers who gossip in hallways. Something was going to happen in courtroom 3. Nobody knew exactly what, but the energy was different. People who had no business being there found reasons to sit in the gallery. Adriana stood at the respondent's table. Same thrift store blazer, same gold chain, same battered folder, but something was different about the way she held herself. Straighter, steadier, like the ground under her feet had solidified overnight. Across the aisle, Kwame and his team looked confident. Whitfield had the new psychiatric evaluation in his folder. Simone sat with her hands folded, looking serene. Lorraine and Tracy in the gallery, ready for the final act of a play they thought they had already written. Judge Coleman called the hearing to order. Whitfield presented the original custody documents, then the psychiatric evaluation. He spoke about Adriana's suspension from work. The CPS investigation, the eviction notice. He painted a picture of a woman in crisis, a woman spiraling, a woman whose children deserved better. Simone dabbed her eyes at the right moments. Lorraine nodded along like she was in church. Tracy took notes on her phone. The judge turned to Adriana. Mrs. Brooks, you stated that these documents are forged and that you have evidence. The court is ready to hear it. Adriana stood. She opened her folder. Your Honor, 6 months ago, my husband served me divorce papers. 2 weeks later, my children were taken to his mother's house and not returned. I had to file an emergency motion just to get them back. Since then, I have been accused of stealing drugs from my workplace. I have been served an eviction notice. I have had Child Protective Services at my door, and now I am looking at a psychiatric evaluation from a doctor I have never met. She laid the first document on the bench. This is my time-stamped badge record from the Raleigh Community Health Clinic showing I was working a 12-hour shift on the date these custody documents claim I visited an attorney's office to sign away my rights. Second document. This is a forensic signature analysis from an independent expert showing that the signature on these documents was digitally copied from old employment paperwork. From what I signed when I was first hired at the clinic. Whitfield stood. Your Honor, this is clearly fabricated. I am not finished, Adriana said. Her voice did not rise. It did not need to. Third document. This is a record of employment for Simone Carter showing she worked in the medical records department at Mercy General Hospital until 7 months ago. The same hospital where my children were born. The same hospital where my medical files are stored. She paused. Let it land. Fourth document. This is a statement from Keisha Williams of Atlanta, Georgia. 3 years ago, Miss Williams went through a custody dispute. During that dispute, documents appeared showing she had voluntarily surrendered her parental rights. She had not. She lost custody of her 2 children for 2 years. The hospital where those documents were generated is the same hospital where Simone Carter previously worked, in medical records. The courtroom was changing. You could feel it, the energy shifting like weather. Whitfield was flipping through his papers. Simone's serene expression had cracked, just slightly, just at the edges. And Your Honor, the psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Helen Marsh. I have never met Dr. Marsh. I have never been evaluated by Dr. Marsh, but I know someone who can verify that. She turned toward the doors. Your Honor, I would like to call a witness who can verify the authenticity of all evidence I have presented. The doors opened. Marcus Whitmore walked in, tall, silver-haired, tailored gray suit. Behind him, 2 men in dark suits. Not bodyguards exactly, legal counsel, but they moved with the kind of quiet authority that makes people sit up straighter. Most people in the courtroom did not recognize him by face. He was not that kind of rich, not the celebrity kind, the quiet kind, the kind where the money is so deep it does not need to be loud. But Judge Coleman recognized the name. Her eyes widened, just slightly. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, "what brings you to my courtroom?" Marcus walked down the aisle. His eyes swept the room, landed on Adriana. Something softened, then his gaze moved to Kwame, and it went cold. "Your Honor, that is my daughter. Those are my grandchildren, and these documents are forged." The courtroom erupted, whispers, gasps, the kind of sound that happens when reality shifts and nobody is sure where the new ground is. Kwame's face lost all color. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Lorraine grabbed the bench in front of her. Tracy stared with wide eyes. Simone looked from Marcus to Kwame and back, panic flashing. Marcus gestured to his legal counsel, who approached the bench with a leather folder. "In this folder, Your Honor, you will find security footage from Mercy General Hospital showing that Simone Carter accessed my daughter's medical records 47 times over 6 months. You will also find employment verification showing my daughter was at work during every date and time these documents claim she was signing papers." He paused. "Additionally, we have travel records for Dr. Helen Marsh. Passport stamps, airline tickets, hotel receipts. Dr. Marsh was in Lisbon, Portugal. For the entire week, she supposedly conducted a psychiatric evaluation of my daughter. She never examined Adriana. The evaluation is fabricated." He turned to look at Simone directly. "We also have evidence connecting the anonymous drug complaint filed against my daughter to a network of companies linked to Miss Carter's employer, the eviction notice, the CPS report. These were not separate events. They were a coordinated campaign designed to strip a mother of her children." Simone shot to her feet. "That is a lie." "I did not." "Sit down," the judge said. Her voice was iron. Marcus looked at Kwame. Kwame had shrunk in his seat, small in a way Adriana had never seen him before. "You thought my daughter was alone," Marcus said quietly. "You thought she had no power, no family, no one to protect her. You thought that made her easy to erase." He paused. The courtroom was so quiet, you could hear the air conditioning. "You were wrong on all counts." Judge Coleman set down the papers. She removed her reading glasses. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 23 years on the bench. "Mr. Brooks, Miss Carter, I am ordering an immediate investigation into document forgery, fraud, and conspiracy. I am granting Mrs. Brooks full emergency custody of the minor children effective immediately. Mr. Brooks, your visitation rights are suspended, pending the outcome of this investigation." Kwame found his voice. "Your Honor, please. I am their father. A father who conspired to give his children to a woman who committed fraud to get them. A father who coordinated a campaign to destroy their mother's reputation. No, Mr. Brooks. You do not get to be their father right now." She looked at Simone. "Miss Carter, I strongly advise you to retain criminal defense counsel." Adriana had been quiet, letting the evidence speak, letting her father speak. But now, she stepped forward. When she spoke, her voice was steady, clear, not loud, not angry, just true. "I stayed quiet because my grandmother taught me that real strength does not need to yell. I let you humiliate me because I wanted to believe you would remember the woman you married, the woman who stood by you when you were building your career, the woman who raised your children while you worked late, or said you were working late, the woman who loved you when love was all she had to give." The courtroom was still. "But you did not forget me. You erased me on purpose. You looked at me and decided I was worth nothing. You thought you could steal my children. and give them to a woman who committed crimes to get them. She turned to Simone. You wanted my life so badly, you forged my signature. You pretended to love my children, to get close to a man who was never yours. You attacked my job, my home, my reputation. You weaponized my own medical records against me. She paused. Now you get to live with the consequences. She walked to her father and took his hand, looked back at Kwam one more time. I do not hate you. I just do not recognize you anymore. And maybe that is sadder than hate. She walked out of that courtroom holding her father's hand. The only sound was her footsteps, and somewhere in the gallery, someone crying. In the back row, Dana leaned to the woman sitting next to her and whispered, I told her that man was conference season. The woman looked confused. Dana shrugged. You had to be there. Some endings are clean, neat, wrapped in ribbon. This one was not. Adriana got her children back that same day. She drove to Lorraine's house with a court order and a deputy sheriff. Lorraine opened the door and did not say a word, just stepped aside. Caleb and Chloe ran to their mother. She knelt on the porch and held them so tight her arms ached. Chloe buried her face in Adriana's neck. Mommy, do not leave us again. Never, baby. Mommy is not going anywhere. She carried them to the car, buckled them in, drove home, made grilled cheese sandwiches, put on cartoons, sat on the couch with one twin under each arm, and did not move for 3 hours. What happened next happened slowly, not the instant Hollywood version where everything falls apart in a montage. Real consequences move at real speed. Kwame's medical device company put him on administrative leave the day after the hearing. When the investigation became public, they terminated him. His professional reputation collapsed piece by piece. The man who tried to steal a billionaire's grandchildren, that became his story. The only story anyone remembered about him. He moved out of the apartment he had rented when he left Adriana. Could not afford it anymore. Ended up in a studio that smelled like mildew. Got a job stocking shelves at a grocery store on the overnight shift. Paid child support from a paycheck that barely covered his own rent. The court granted him supervised visits, once a month, 2 hours at a community center with a social worker present. 3 months after the hearing, he sat across from his children at a folding table in a room that smelled like industrial cleaner. Caleb would not look at him. Chloe held a crayon and drew circles on blank paper. Hey buddy, Kwame, said, trying to smile. You want to play basketball later? Caleb looked at the floor. Why did you try to give us away, Daddy? The question hit Kwame in the chest like a fist. I made a mistake, buddy. Daddy made a bad mistake. Caleb looked up. Grandpa Marcus says mistakes are when you do something wrong one time. You did it lots of times. That is not a mistake. That is a choice 4 years old, repeating something he heard, not fully understanding it. But children have a way of delivering truth without armor. It goes in clean. Kwame had no answer, because there was no answer. How do you explain to a child that you chose ambition over love, that you let pride and another woman's manipulation convince you that your family was not enough, that you looked at everything good in your life and decided to burn it down? You cannot explain it. You just sit with it. Simone Carter was arrested by federal agents at 6 in the morning on a Tuesday. 2 agents at her door. Document forgery, identity fraud, conspiracy to commit custodial interference, medical records tampering. The investigation uncovered more. Simone had sold private medical records to 3 other individuals over the past 5 years. Adriana and Keisha Williams were not her only victims. They were just the ones who fought back. She faced 12 to 15 years in federal prison. From county jail, she tried to contact Kwame. He answered once. You did this to me, she said. You pulled me into your mess. He hung up. She called back. He did not answer. Through her lawyer, she released a statement saying that Kwame had manipulated her into everything, that she was a victim of his ambition, that she had been coerced. Nobody believed her. The access logs did not lie. 47 times she logged into Adriana's records, 61 times into Keisha's. The timestamps told the story she would not tell. Lorraine and Tracy faced a different kind of consequence. Not legal, social. The church community they had been part of for 20 years learned what happened. People who had sat next to Lorraine in the pew for decades stopped speaking to her. The women's ministry asked her to step back. Neighbors who used to wave crossed to the other side of the street. Tracy lost her job. The HR department at her company could not employ someone who participated in custody fraud. It was a liability issue, they said. But it was also a decency issue, and everyone knew it. They did not come begging. Not together, anyway. Lorraine called once, 4 months after the hearing. Adriana saw the caller ID. She let it ring and ring and ring. She did not answer. Some people think forgiveness means opening the door again. But sometimes forgiveness just means not carrying the anger anymore. You can forgive someone and still change the locks. Adriana and Marcus were building something, slowly, carefully, the way you build anything on ground that has been broken, with patience and realistic expectations and the understanding that 32 years of absence does not disappear because the truth came out. They argued about the years he stayed away, about the money Geneva sent back, about the 3 weeks he had evidence and waited while Adriana was losing her job and her home. One night, after dinner, the twins asleep. You know what bothers me most, Adriana said. Not the money, not the years. It is that you watched me almost lose my children, and you waited. I waited because Geneva would have wanted me to fight first. I know, but Geneva never had to watch her grandchildren get taken away. Maybe she would have done it differently. Marcus had no answer for that, because she was right. And sometimes the strongest thing a parent can do is admit that their child has outgrown their wisdom. They kept trying. Dinners on Sundays. Marcus reading to the twins in his deep voice, teaching them about their grandmother Angela, who he had loved more than anything, telling them about Geneva, who raised their mother into the woman she became. He was not a perfect grandfather. He was learning, the way everyone learns, a role they came to late, with effort and humility, and the knowledge that showing up imperfectly is better than not showing up at all. 6 months later, on a Sunday morning, Adriana drove the twins to a cemetery in rural North Carolina, the old Baptist Church cemetery, magnolia trees, birdsong, peaceful in the way that only places full of memory can be. Geneva's headstone was simple granite. The words carved into it read, "She loved loud in a quiet way." Adriana placed white roses at the base, Geneva's favorite. The twins stood on either side of her. Caleb held her left hand. Chloe held her right. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Caleb asked. "Because I am happy, baby. Your great-grandma saved us, even after she was gone." Chloe looked up with those brown eyes that saw everything. "Did we win, Mommy?" Adriana smiled through tears. She thought about the bathroom floor at 3 in the morning, the $340, the evidence wall, the phone call to a father she never knew, the courtroom, all of it. "We did not have to win, sweetheart. We just had to survive long enough for the truth to come out." They walked back to the car, slowly, the way you walk when you are not in a hurry, because for the first time in a long time there is nowhere you need to be except right here. Her phone buzzed. "Marcus, hospital ribbon cutting next Tuesday. Your grandmother's name goes on the building. I would like you to do the honors," Adriana typed back. "Only if the twins can cut the ribbon." Marcus replied. Geneva would have insisted. She put her phone away, buckled the twins into their car seats, touched the gold chain around her neck. Here's what nobody tells you about strength. It is not the courtroom moment. It is not the standing ovation. It is not the part where everyone gasps and the villain's face falls and justice arrives in a tailored suit. It is the bathroom floor. It is the 3 in the morning. It is the checking account balance that makes your stomach drop. It is the drawing your daughter made of other mommy and the way that word cut through you like nothing else ever could. That is where strength lives. In the ugly hours, the quiet ones, the ones nobody sees and nobody applauds. Adriana did not win because her father was a billionaire. She won because she was Geneva's granddaughter, because she documented everything, because she asked for help when she had done everything she could alone, because she refused to be erased. The billionaire father was the last 5%. The other 95 was a tired nurse with a laptop and a good friend who answered the phone at 3 in the morning and a grandmother who taught her that silence is not weakness. It is patience with a purpose. So, if you are out there right now, if you are in the dark part, the bathroom floor part, the empty bank account part, the nobody believes me part, you do not need a secret billionaire father. You need a paper trail. You need one person who will answer the phone when it is late. And you need to remember that the people trying to erase you are counting on you staying quiet. Do not stay quiet. Get loud on paper. Build your case. Ask for help when you have done everything you can alone. And walk into that room with your evidence and your truth and let it do what truth always does. It comes out. It always comes out. And when it does, the loudest people in the room suddenly have nothing to say. The ones who thought silence meant weakness discover they were wrong. And the woman they tried to break was never broken. She was just waiting, gathering herself, getting ready to remind the world who she really was. Adriana touched the gold chain one more time, started the car. Caleb was singing a song he learned at preschool. Chloe was already asleep. The road stretched out ahead of them, open and clear. She drove toward home. Closing disclaimer. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with real-life lessons. Every narrative is crafted with intention, designed not just to entertain, but to inspire, empower, and remind you of the strength you already carry. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community.